Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky.
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Name the dog in the animal.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in paints?
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks, where two geeks geek out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, is my friend who has the long game plan, Frank. How are you today?
I am doing quite well, my friend. How are you?
I am doing well. I feel a little that my nose is a bit stuffy, so if I sound stuffy, I apologize. But not if I sound like, like full of myself or anything. That's the stuffy I'm going for. If my nose is full of mucus, then I apologize.
Ah, I see. I'm glad you...
But I want to sound aristocratic. I want to sound stuffy.
Got it. Okay.
Muffy, where are my slippers?
Darling.
Yes.
Okay, I'm glad to know that because that's the first thing I think of when I think of you is that you're stuck up and stuffy and snooty. So I'm glad that you're going for that.
Fan-friggin-tastic. Good. All right. Well, Frank, are you drinking a beer? Because I'm not. I am not. So I know. Well, I'm stuffy. Yeah.
I know. You got to take care of yourself. You got to look after yourself. But yes, I am drinking a beer for the both of us. This is a Brooklyn Brewery Local One fermented ale. This is this was given to me for my birthday a couple months ago now. Brewed in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. Brooklyn Brewing Company. I think most people know Brooklyn Brewery. They're pretty well distributed at this point. And this is a like German style or Belgian style ale, I guess, where they have it's a really nice. It's one of their sort of like more premium beers. It comes in the big like wine bottle size situations, and it is a re-fermented in the bottle. And it is delicious and complex, and it tastes like a Belgian, double or triple. It's really, really good. I'm a big fan of it, and very, very grateful for having received it as a gift.
That's awesome. I'm happy for you and everything that life brings you in the form of beer. I'm just drinking a lemon seltzer right now. Nothing too wild or crazy. But I do have some Revival IPA in my fridge.
Ooh,
so
that's fun.
Other people can partake in drinking.
There you go. What kind of seltzer is it?
This is just a Polar.
Polar lemon seltzer.
Polar, pretty classic. Some of the ones that they add sodium to it, I'm not I don't like those as much. I'm
with you on that.
I can taste the salt.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I prefer. I've been drinking a lot of seltzer in the last few months too, and Polar is one of my favorites. I like Polar. I like Bubbly.
Bubbly adds sodium. I think.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, not as
maybe
much.
I'm not as good at picking up on it as I thought I was.
Theirs is not as much as others, so it's easier to miss.
Okay.
But it's not like LaCroix or something
LaCroix?
like that. I think LaCroix does too. Not positive. Schweppes is good though. Schweppes puts out
Schweppes. Okay.
Schweppes has good seltzer, Frank. But anyway,
nice. Seltzer with Geeks.
Seltzer with Geeks. Frank, we had a request for a topic from our Thought Bubble Audio host Lauren of Metropolis Podcast at MetPod. She wants us to come up with a dream show of our own. You have a dream HBO Superman show. 8 seasons, You are guaranteed the same actors for those 8 seasons. What do you do? And for me, I'll do the same thing for Batman. So we did not plan these ahead of time. This is more of a stream of consciousness. This is what's been given to us right now, right before we started recording. So whatever comes to your mind shall be your pitch. And what would you do about it?
So this is and so I'm going to do Superman and you're going to do Batman, correct?
That's correct. Unless you really want to throw everybody off and swap them, but I don't.
Now here's the thing. Ever since I was 3 years old, I've been developing this pitch. So
yeah, right. Yeah. Yes. So you're ready for it. Is what you're saying.
I'm basically ready for it. Yeah. I mean, I have lots of ideas. So it's not so much a matter of coming up with something as much as it is eliminating the things that I don't think are a fit.
Excellent. All right. Well, then I leave it to you, good sir. Do you want, since Superman appeared before Batman?
Okay.
Superman gets to go first.
So I'll talk for a whole year, and then a year in, then you'll start talking, is what you're saying.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
May to May. Here we go.
80 years from now, people will listen to this podcast to remember it, I guess.
That's right. Or you could talk for 80 some odd years because Superman is really old. It's up to you.
I could talk for 80 some odd years about Superman.
Yeah, I know you could,
yeah.
And I would listen to every single second of it.
And you would, because you're a sucker.
I know.
I mean, because you're my friend.
Aren't those two the same, though? Truly.
I mean, yeah. You're a sucker for me.
That's right.
Yeah, no, it's something that I think about, a lot. So Superman show. So I've got 8 seasons. I've got an HBO level budget. So that means great effects, great all of that. So I would, if I've got 8 years, it does feel, when it comes to a movie, if I was doing a movie, I'd be like, let's skip Krypton, let's skip the origin, let's get more like right into it. Or let's do a real simple, Grant Morrison All-Star Superman type of origin that's just like a real quick flash to get us into it.
Yep.
Assuming people know it. But if we've got 8 seasons, now I don't know how long these seasons are going to be. I'm going to choose
that's right
that they will be more of a 10 to 12 episode arc, because I feel that sort of compressing things down into fewer episodes means there's less room for filler, more room for moving the plot forward and moving the story forward. So I'm going to make that choice for me, especially if we're talking about these prestige dramas tend to be in that format anyway. So I would love to see a first episode takes place on Krypton. Second episode takes place on the Kent farm. Third episode, we get to Metropolis. Okay. That would be sort of how I would pace it out. So an hour in each locale. I would probably borrow a blend of things from the sort of John Byrne era and the Donner Kryptons, right? It'd be kind of an amalgam of the two. I feel like at this point the crystals and all of that are so ingrained in the lore and are sort of like when people think, if people think of Krypton, right? If there are non-comic book nerds thinking about Krypton, they're probably that's what they're seeing is like the Marlon Brando and the crystals and all that stuff. So I probably would borrow a lot of that imagery, and I would probably spend an hour there to establish that, then spend an hour in Smallville, and then spend an hour in Metropolis, and we go from there. And I would love it to be a Daily Planet centered show. So much of the, I mean, I guess similar to a Lois and Clark style to that show, where it's centered around his life, going to work every day, being a reporter, being Clark, and being Superman. So it would be my vision of it would be that Clark is the real guy, and Superman is the mask he puts on, right? Not the old Silver Age, Golden Age version where Superman is the real guy and Clark Kent is the disguise, but just the opposite. I also feel pretty strongly that Clark should be mild-mannered, but not necessarily always bumbling. Doesn't mean he can't sometimes, but I don't. Yep. I always feel like something that what George Reeves did or Dean Cain did, where they were capable reporters, capable men. What Brian Michael Bendis is writing right now in Action and Superman comics. He is a very capable reporter, very good at his job. But he's mild-mannered. Mild-mannered means he's a soft-spoken, nice guy, unassuming, doesn't necessarily mean he's like, oh gosh, Lois, and like tripping over himself.
That's right.
No disrespect to Christopher Reeve, none whatsoever. But I always like I like him being a very capable, like, people aren't just making fun of him.
He has to be capable at his job too.
Yeah, and you don't think he's gonna get shoved into a locker, right? Like that. That's
right.
So I feel like that should be a center point of that interpretation of Clark. So the end of the pilot is him getting rocketed to Smallville. Probably we see him land there, and that's where things end. We pick up with Jonathan and Martha finding him there. I love the idea of them not being, they're always traditionally portrayed, Jonathan and Martha, as elderly, and that was pretty much always the portrayal. I love what Smallville did and made them like middle-aged parents, like people in their 40s raising a child, like plausible that these people would have a 3-year-old child.
Yep.
I love that, and I would love to see that continue. I mean, I guess they did that in Man of Steel as well. Kevin Costner and Diane Lane, like that is totally plausible that they are old enough to have raised that man, right? Yep. Whereas pretty much every other interpretation you see, it's like, how are these 75-year-old people, how did they have a 3-year-old? And they always had to come up with like, oh, we adopted him, or he was our cousin's kid, or whatever. They had to come up with some story like that. Yep. I like the thing where it's just like people walking down the street in Smallville wouldn't be like, why are these elderly people raising a 5-year-old? Just what?
What?
Yeah. I love it when they're the couple of interpretations where I've seen them be sort of a sensible age for having a kid that age.
My favorite Kents are the Lois and Clark Kents.
Oh, they're great.
They're great.
They're great.
Exactly what I would want from them all the time. They feel like they're from the Midwest. They love their son. They support decisions they make. They're slightly bewildered sometimes, but they're also of the right age.
That's true. Yeah, they are. They're like on the older end of the right age, but they're still. It still works.
That's right.
It still works. They have a 30-something-year-old son, and they are an appropriate age for having a son.
That's right.
So yeah, I'm into that. I'm on board with that. I love them so much. They're great because they're so similar to the way that Jonathan and Martha were in the comics at that time in the post-crisis era. They were somewhat like salt of the earth people, like what you'd expect for Jonathan and Martha Kent, and yet when they come to the city, they're sort of like thrown off, and it's kind of played up for laughs, and they're so great. So, it's fantastic.
It is.
So
yep.
I would
get
love that.
sidetracked on the Kents.
I just thinking about it. I'm like, now I can watch Lois and Clark.
Actually, my Superman show, I really just want to watch Ma and Pa Kent.
It's just the Ma and Pa Kent.
Wondering when their son will visit them sometime.
Right. Well, I would like similar to Lois and Clark. I would like the idea of him visiting frequently because he can get back there whenever he wants. Guy can fly. Dude can fly. When he wants to go talk to mom and dad, he can go see mom and dad, or call him on the phone or whatever. So I would love to see more of that. I also feel like something that like Smallville's like my favorite TV show, but what they didn't do a whole lot of very consistently, they did not do a lot of the using his powers in mundane ways, like using it to shave, using it to using the heat vision to shave, or lifting up his own car to do like stuff like that. I would love to see more of that, sort of casually using his strength, casually using his different powers. I think of maybe it's in the pilot of Lois and Clark when he's walking on the walls early on, but like things like that, just sort of casually in the everyday, like, because if you had those powers and when you're alone, you would use them. Like it would just, of course you would, if you know you can do something more easily. If you can clean up your whole kitchen in 2 seconds, right? Like Barry does on The Flash. Yep. You would do that. Oh, of course you would. When no one's around.
Absolutely. I was shoveling my driveway today, and I was thinking, like, man, I wish I had heat vision because I would just come out and melt all the snow, and that would be that. But that was my thought. I was like, oh, if I was Superman, this is how I would use my powers. Not like, oh, is anybody trapped in their home? Can I help you? Be like, no, I'm just going to melt the snow on my driveway.
Totally. Mm-hmm. So that would be sort of, those are like the fundamentals. The first couple of seasons would be He's new to Metropolis. He's new to being Superman. He's not new to his powers. So it wouldn't be like Smallville where he's discovering the powers and using the puberty as a vehicle for him to gain his powers. Mm-hmm. As brilliant as that all was, I wouldn't do that here. It would be like he grew up in Smallville, knows it, like has mastered his powers already, but is learning how to be Superman. He meets Lois, he meets the Daily Planet staff, he meets Perry, he meets all these people. He's learning how to be a hero. Would be the way I would do this.
Yep, sure.
Probably take him about 2 seasons to get to like fully comfortable in those shoes.
Do you mean, is it like a Shazam thing where he like tries to leap the building a single bound and like ends up in the skyscraper?
No. That would be fun, but that's not the way I'm picturing it. It's he knows how to use his powers. He knows how to fly. Okay. He knows how to do those things, but he doesn't know how to be like how to live a double life and how to be a superhero.
Yeah, sure. Okay,
he's learning how to do that because he's only unmasking himself for the first time now.
Gotcha.
He's always hidden that, so he knows how to use the powers, but he's adjusting into like what it means when people are mistrustful of him, similar to like in Man of Steel where people were like, get out of here, we don't want you. He's going to deal with that for at least the first season, and maybe by the end of season 2 he wins over Metropolis, wins over the trust of the public trust. Seasons 3 and 4 I see as sort of he's getting into a rhythm. He and Lois start to become an item. Maybe the love triangle is happening by this point. Definitely happening by this point. I feel like there shouldn't be a like on again off again. I never really I was just talking with my wife about this a couple weeks ago. We were watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh yeah,
and the love interests, they're like the main 2 characters who get together. They don't do a like on again off again or like they date and then they come. That I find very exhausting. And while it gets people invested, I find that exhausting. I would like them to gradually get together, but once they're together, they're together, and I would like that to happen. So I would love to see them by like season 3, 4. She's starting to figure out what's going on here. They're starting to they're probably dating, and he's probably told her let her in on the secret identity by the middle of the series, by season 4, 5. The next couple of seasons is them together, like doing things. So Lois at his side. I would love to see a wedding around season 6 or 7, and then probably you'd have to have season 8 and the final season. That's where you start bringing out the really big guns. I would love to see the whole thing sort of. We see lots of different villains along the way. Of course, we'll probably have Lex as a mainstay. We'll have the Metallos, the Parasite, like all those kinds of villains.
I like
throughout.
the Metallos. It sounds like a family. The Metallo
family. Yeah, and Brainiac and all that good stuff. But then eventually we build up and we get more and more cosmic, and then we start to get like the
dark side.
Ultimately, season 8. I would love to see Darkseid, Apocalypse. Maybe Doomsday and the wedding also be like from pulling that from the comics, having Doomsday delay the wedding by a season or something like that. I would love to see that kind of thing, and that being a season ender cliffhanger. Probably going to have Zod come out of the Phantom Zone at some point.
Always.
So those sorts of things. I would love to see those staples be there. That's my 8-season arc for a Superman show. More or less.
So it's interesting that you say you'll see some of the villains in this and this, but you don't sound like you have it almost feels like you like the one and done villain as opposed to this like the year arc villain.
I think so. I mean, like Lex would be like probably the first year arc for sure, right? And then, but like someone like Metallo or Parasite doesn't lend themselves to that, right? They don't lend themselves as much to being the season big bad. So I would probably do something similar, although I would do it differently than what Smallville or Supergirl have done, where you have a season long arc for a villain and then one and done's on the way there. I would probably do that. You borrow that structure, but have it be a little bit more like every episode should. One thing Smallville did well was every episode there was always something that moved forward the season-long arc. Every single episode.
That's true.
Even in filler episodes, the last sting before the credits would be something that moved forward whatever the season-long plot was. So I would make sure that would be an essential for me. So there would be both. It would be both. There'd be season-long arcs for like Doomsday would be something that how like in the comic. In the comics and the issues leading up to Death of Superman, there was like the thum, 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 Doomsday punching his way out. There'd be little teases like that throughout. and maybe the beginning of Doomsday, like working his way across the country and finally getting to Metropolis a couple episodes in. So
yeah, that's good. That's really good. Now, so what would you like if you had your choice of famous comic story arcs to do? Which ones would you then? Because you mentioned the Doomsday and the wedding and stuff. Yep. Which ones would you include in there?
Definitely would include Death of Superman is going to be a must somehow in there, and the wedding album. I am definitely going to want Brainiac, the Brainiac arc, one of my all-time favorite Superman stories. Brainiac, of course, could be a season-long villain, no doubt. And you could even bring him back, right? He could be like the season 2 or 3 villain and bring him back in season 5 or 6 or something like that.
Absolutely.
Because Brainiac does that. I would definitely do those. I would definitely. I would love if our Batman and Superman shows could cross over. And we could have. We could have some stuff from like the Jeff Loeb Superman Batman run.
Oh yeah, Public Enemies is just
so good. Public Enemies would be.
Would be so good. Maybe that would.
Kiss.
Yeah, if I didn't have such a structure to I'd be like season 8. That's it. We're just like mushing them together, and that's kind of how we wrap up because that would be super fun.
It'd be solid. That'd be so good.
Maybe
good.
maybe we do a special HBO movie, and then
or miniseries.
Right. That's how we the miniseries. That's how we wrap it up. That's good. Yeah,
I'd be into that. I always thought that the Last Days of Krypton novel by Kevin J. Anderson would make a phenomenal miniseries.
Me too, because it's so. You basically have that with Krypton, like on TV now.
Yeah, it's kind of
It's basically that with certainly different, a totally different story, and the way they're using the characters and brand new characters and whatever else. But I agree that Kevin J. Anderson book is so good.
So fantastic.
Actually, I went looking for my copy the other day. I was like, man, where is that book? That book was great. I need to find it just to make sure that I have it.
Yeah. Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah. I reread it a couple of years. I've read it like 4 or 5 times now. I love it. I want to reread his Batman Superman one. I forget what it's called. Not World's Finest. Is it? It's not called World's Finest.
Yeah. It might be World's Finest.
Yeah. But you know what I'm talking about. The one that takes place in the 50s during the Cold War. It was really good.
Yep. I know
and Bruce is sort of a James Bond type figure in that book. I can see it on my shelf. I just can't read it from here. But yeah, I love that book. I would definitely. So here's what I might do. I might do the Jeff Johns, Richard Donner, Last Son story. Where
with
Zod, Ursa, and Non come out of the Phantom Zone. Mm-hmm. He's got to fight them, and Zod and Ursa have a son whom Clark and Lois adopt. This was before we had Jonathan Kent in the comics, young John Kent in the comics. This was about 10, 12 years ago. This was how they got Lois and Clark to be parents in a roundabout way. I loved that. I loved that story a lot, and I was sad when he had to go away.
When he had to go away,
he did. They had to go back. And I was sort of like, all right, we have to give you back now.
No, you're right.
But yeah, I was sad that they probably always knew it couldn't be permanent. Like at the time, I guess it could have been. But I would love to have that be because I was thinking about I would love to have John in the show, but I don't know on the timeline I've got sketched out. I don't know that you could have them get married and have a kid and have him be old enough for it to be interesting before the end of season 8. The way I have it, the trajectory planned out, but maybe that's a good way you could introduce a kid is to have it be Zod and Ursa's kid that they adopt, much in the same way that Jonathan and Martha adopted him. So I would love to see that story get adapted. I just recently read What's So Funny About Truth, Justice, and the American Way. I think that could be a great arc. Obviously, they're doing it on Supergirl right now, so it would be kind of it might be a little derivative, but I would love to see that. I would love to see a lot of the things from All-Star Superman work their way in. Again, a lot of just the sort of whimsy and the way he uses his powers, the sort of unabashed love of the Silver Age in a way that still works today. I think Grant Morrison did that in a really great way. People who don't like Superman love that story. For some people, it's the only Superman story that they enjoy, which is odd because he really leaned into all the things that make Superman cheesy sometimes.
Yep.
But he did it so well that most people agree, most readers agree. Like it's a fantastic, one of the all-time great Superman stories. So I would love to see some elements from that work their way in as well.
Oh, that's...
Yeah. So those are a few. Those are a few stories right there. There's lots of things, references you could pull. All the shows that we watch, all the DC CW shows, all make little subtle references, whether it's a character that's here for one episode and gone, or just a mention of a character or whatever. I would love to see that stuff peppered throughout in a way much the same way the DC CW shows do it, where a mention or an appearance of a character isn't off-putting to someone who's not familiar, but is a great delight to people who do know.
Does your Superman exist in a world of the entire DC universe, or is it only Superman in that world? Like, let's say the crossover isn't our crossover isn't happening with our shows. Like it can other heroes show up on your show?
Yeah, I think similar to the way that like Superman the animated series, brought in like Flash would come visit from
here's Flash or Dr. Fate or like whatever. Yeah,
I would like to. I mean, in a less cartoonish way, but yeah, I would like to see that happening. And references to Superman having worked with other heroes too. I feel like before Infinite Crisis, right? So when in the sort of what's called the From Crisis to Crisis era in the late 80s and early 90s and into the 90s, there was a lot of, you could have crossover that lasted for a couple issues, and that was it. It didn't always have to be an event. It didn't always have to be, the Justice League, all of the heroes are coming together to stop this huge threat to the universe.
Yep.
I would like to see more of that and pull the punches a little bit, save the big universe world-threatening stuff for the finales, for the big moments, but it doesn't always have to be that way, right? They can team up for other reasons. There are other plausible reasons for an HBO level prestige drama, even where they are teaming up for a 2 or 3 episode arc, and it doesn't need to be like because apocalypse is happening. Like it doesn't need to be Crisis every time. It can be that they're teaming up for other reasons. And I would like to see some of that peppered throughout, as well as when it's the right time, maybe every couple of seasons, at like the most frequent, you have a bunch of heroes getting together to stop a big threat. I think that would be a lot of fun. It would be admittedly hard to do it well, so I would be like careful about how to do it. I would deploy those things tactically to make sure that they're being done well.
It's tough to say like get an actor to play like say the Flash or something like that and say we're only going to use you once this season, but I hope you'll be available for all these other times we maybe will use you. Probably
it's true. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
But Tyler Hoechlin, has played Superman in just very specific moments in Supergirl when they've needed him, when they've thought it was the right moment to bring him in.
No, you're right.
And I'm sure when he was available. But if you did the same thing with Flash, Green Arrow, Green Lantern, I could do a whole series on Green Lantern too. But I would love to see those characters come in when appropriate. Wonder Woman. I would love to see some Teen Titans stuff happening. Like I would love those characters. If we do a Doomsday story and Connor gets spun out of that, if we do World Without a Superman, if we do the four Supermen and all of that, I would love all of that.
Yeah,
I'd love all of that.
That would
have all those characters coming in and out.
That'd be awesome. That'd be so cool. I would love it so much. Well,
it'd be great.
What do you have anybody in mind? Do you say like this actor in my mind would be a terrific Superman, or Lois Lane, or Lex Luthor, or something like that?
I love the unknowns for these roles. I would want somebody who is reminiscent of like Matt Bomer. We were actually just talking about Matt Bomer a couple days ago.
Yeah.
And
just
how
killing it on Doom Patrol. Yeah.
He's got the look, man. He's got the look. He's got the mannerisms, a lot of them. I just saw him on Will and Grace the other night too, and I was like, yeah, man, he could do it. He could totally do it. So yeah, I would love someone who's reminiscent of Matt Bomer, but probably a little bit younger and an unknown. Above all, an unknown, because I think that's kind of important and kind of a hallmark of the character. Maybe not a complete unknown, but somebody who is not already a movie star, TV star. So I would love that, somebody who reminds me of him for Superman and Clark. For Lois, I really feel like Amy Adams was actually a really good choice. I had a hard time looking past the fact that this is Amy Adams, an actress whom I really love, a little bit, and I just feel like she wasn't given she wasn't given enough to work with, in my opinion.
I agree.
For what I wanted from her, so I would like somebody who reminds me of her. A Terry Hatcher type would be like, or a Dana Delaney type would be like an absolute dream for me in terms of the portrayal of the character. So
what about Bitsy?
Bitsy Tulloch. I mean, I like what we saw from her in her. Again, I feel like she was underutilized too, but I love what we saw from her. Honestly, I think that Dana Delaney is, at this point,
she's my favorite.
Lois.
She's my favorite.
And obviously she was just the voice, but her portrayal was enough.
She looks like Lois too. If you like,
she
actually
does.
Yeah, she does. She looks like her.
Yeah.
Not.
And I felt like she had that show Body of Proof on ABC.
Yep.
Where she was like a CSI, and she was like basically Lois in that show. So yeah, I feel like, as I'm talking it through, probably Dana is my sort of ideal of what I want out of a Lois.
Mm-hmm. No, that's good. Some really good stuff. Well, Frank. So we had a whole episode here of your pitch, which was just so fabulous. I loved it so much. I want to watch your show in the worst way. Ooh, question though. How does he get his suit in your version?
Ma.
Yeah, I like when Ma. I like when Ma makes it too.
It's got to be the Kryptonian fabric. It could come in the ship. It could come from the fortress. We could figure that out. But maybe I'd probably go more with fortress than with the ship, because the ship thing is always like the blanket becomes the suit. Really? Yeah, I don't know. That's a little silver. It's a little too Silver Agey.
Yeah.
But I would love for Martha to make the suit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Man, I love what it's just like. It's like supporting her son in the you know what I mean, in like the worst and best way. Like
no one's gonna be looking at your face.
No one's gonna be looking at your face, sweetie. So, do you have any last remnants of your pitch? Because we'll save my pitch for another episode.
Yeah, this sort of became a whole episode unto itself, but we'll do part 2.
Doesn't matter. That's okay.
Yeah. No, I'm glad. It was good. It was good talk.
You said you were gonna talk for the whole year. So
80 years.
80,
yeah. I mean, there's so much more I could say. I would like it to be, influenced by the Jeff Johns ethos. No surprise there.
Yeah,
and the Bendis ethos too, of let's take different pieces of continuity and fold them all in a way that it feels like, wow, this all just makes sense. Like these things from the 50s and 60s and 80s and 90s can all coexist in a way that it seems like it was meant to be this way all along.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what sort of the key driving thing behind it is. And like optimism, hope, the things that exemplify Superman, truth, justice, and the American way should all be at the core of this show. I feel like there's not enough hopeful optimism on, especially if you say prestige drama, I know I'm going to be depressed by the end of it, right? And I hope that you could take the production values of those kinds of shows and put it behind something more hopeful, optimistic, and positive. So that would be my sort of underlying idea for the whole show.
Oh, I love it. It's great.
Thank you for letting me take 30 years of Superman ideas and vomit them out for everyone to listen to.
Oh, you're so welcome. Well, you can find us at beerwithgeeks.com and Twitter and Gmail. You can rate it and review us on iTunes. Find us all places podcasts can be found. And, of course, you can head over to patreon.com and support the show for even $1 a month. It comes out to $12 a year. Not too much at a barely noticeable amount, but it helps keep the lights on. So it's all good. You can check out all of the Thought Bubble audio shows at thoughtbubbleaudio.com. Frank, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. In every
likewise, my friend,
any respectable manner. So until next time,
cheers.